Professor, firstly, it's a great pleasure to have you here with us tonight. I want to start our conversation by asking the following. With the upcoming US election by the end of this year, are we expected to witness a real potential change in the US foreign policy towards China? Isn't it a state policy, or it's a policy related to the president himself?
Well, the answer I'm going to give you is a very paradoxical one. On the one hand, the outcome of the elections could change nothing. On the other hand, it could change everything. So why do I give this paradoxical answer? Because it's very, very clear that even though the United States, as we all know today, is a deeply divided society where Americans cannot agree on anything, there's only one thing they agree on: it's time to stop China. So regardless of who's the president, the mission to stop China will continue. And that policy has become deeply embedded in both the establishment, the society, and everyone seems to agree that this is the time for United States to stop China. But at the same time, the reason why I say it could change everything is that if Trump wins, which is certainly possible, I think you can never tell what Trump is going to do. He could go to either extreme, right? Certainly he'll carry on the contest against China. There's no question about that at all. But how? And he could make things a lot worse, much, much worse. So therefore, we have to prepare ourselves for all possibilities. Certainly, if you come from small states like UAE or Singapore, as I do, you have to recognize that we, whether we like it or not, are now witnessing the largest geopolitical contest ever seen in human history. And I say the largest geopolitical contest because we've never had powers of the size and scale of the United States today and China going head to head. And because this is such an immense geopolitical contest, it will rock the world and it will affect all of us, no matter what we do, no matter where we live. And that's why we need to understand this, and that's why I think it's very timely that you're having this dialogue here in UAE now.
That's true. So you said that all the Americans agree on one thing, which is like to stop China. So does that mean like the US has like a strategy or a grand strategy to stop China, or it's like more related to each president and his way of dealing with China?
Well, I'm glad you used the words grand strategy. Because when I was writing my book, Has China Won?, I had the privilege of having a very long one-on-one lunch with someone who was then clearly America's greatest living strategic thinker, Henry Kissinger. It was a long lunch, hour and a half, 2 hours. And at the end of the lunch, when I went back, I asked myself, what was the message that Henry Kissinger was trying to give to me at this one-on-one lunch? And it became clear to me after I reflected on my conversation with him that the message he was telling me was that the biggest strategic mistake that the United States is making in this contest against China is that it has launched this contest without a strategy. I thought, gosh, that's a very profound thing to say. So I had to write to him. I wrote to Henry Kissinger and I said, "Dear Henry, thank you for the lunch. Do you mind if I cite you saying this in my book?" And fortunately, he gave me his permission. So the fact that someone as senior and as well-informed as Henry Kissinger can say that there's no strategy is a very important point. And it's also confirmed by the evidence, right? While we know for sure that the United States will carry out actions in one way or another against China, it's not clear what the goal is. I mean, is the goal to stop China's economic development? It cannot be done. Is the goal to overthrow the Chinese Communist Party? It cannot be done. Is the goal to successfully contain and isolate China like the way the United States successfully isolated and contained Soviet Union? It can't be done. So if it's not clear what the goals are, people are asking, you've launched this contest, what is your end game? What will constitute a victory for you? And as you know, that has never been spelled out by anybody. Except once, I think President Joe Biden in passing mentioned, saying the Chinese aim to become number one, and he said, it ain't gonna happen on my watch. So basically what he's saying, I will not allow Chinese economy to overtake the US economy while I'm still president. So clearly, if you look at all the actions that have been taken, the tariffs, the chip war, they're all designed in one way or another to slow down the Chinese economic growth. Because I think the United States has made, in some ways, a rational calculation that if and when the Chinese economy becomes number one, everything changes. And the very privileged position that the United States has had for, by the way, 130, 140 years as the number one power in the world, that can change. And here I want to emphasize that I do believe, and this is also a result of my conversation with Henry Kissinger, that there is a wiser strategy for the United States. Instead of trying to stop China, the United States should try to work with China to create a world which has enough space for two big powers. And that was also, by the way, a strategy that the former President Bill Clinton suggested in a speech that he gave in Yale in 2003. And in my book, Has China Won? I cite the speech he gave where he said, Bill Clinton said, if the US is going to be number one forever, then we can keep on doing what we are doing. But he added a but. He said, but if we can conceive of a world where we are no longer number one, then surely it's in the United States' interests to build multilateral institutions, multilateral processes, multilateral rules, multilateral norms that will in one way or another constrain China. And that would be a wiser strategy. So those of us who are friends of the US and friends of China should therefore be advocating to both of them, why don't you adopt a wiser strategy that will be better for both of you and better for us, instead of this rather destructive zero-sum game that is being played out now.